Hi there. Thank you for joining me. I just realized I'm wearing almost the same outfit I had on for the last recording. So maybe I'll do that whole Rachel Maddow show where she wears the same thing uh, every broadcast. It's got to make the um, closet a little bit neater and uh, the brain have a little bit less work to do. And that would be nice, wouldn't it? So I wanted to take this time to express and to maybe bring some light how much stressful energy has been flying around in the universe this week and how you are most likely being impacted by it, and for you to take some time to have some awareness around it and to ask yourself if the stress level that you're feeling is in fact just yours, what's going on in your life, or can it be that it's what we're hearing in the news and it's what's being discussed at practically every coffee shop or business place that you're in, and that we really are impacted, whether something is happening in Japan or Italy or any place that isn't in your home backyard, that you can still be impacted by that energy, and it can create all different types of manifestations, from anxiety, anger, frustration, just a nervousness and not really knowing what's going on, a restlessness, palpitations, just anything that you can think of that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but is actually your body's way of signaling that something is going on that I'm not really liking, and I don't know if I'm in full flight or fright or freeze or any of the other F words. Oh, I've used a few of those this week. So fudge. Careful where your brain goes. No, I use the other one too. So I wanted to talk about that, and because the idea that it's just because you're not in these situations that are being described does not mean that it won't. That's a lot of negatives, but it won't impact you. And we hear the word triggered a lot, and that it's a very real thing. I mean, just think of like smells, and when that memory of a time or of a person comes up, that your brain automatically went there. And with trauma, it tends to be even more deeply embedded, and it gets caught, and then the reticular activating system is spitting out stuff, and then the hippocampus gets mad, and then everybody's just in their own little tug of war going on in there, and who's going to be in charge and shoot out what hormones and stress responses. So I noticed it this week in myself, and I'm not usually affected by the energy that's going on. I will definitely take my own space and spend some time to myself if I know there's a lot of energy going on. But I'm not usually affected by it because I've spent so much time learning what is mine and what is someone else's, that I can often identify, oh, this is flying around in my field. And remember, if you watched a couple videos ago where I had you pull in your field and expand your field and just become more aware of what was going on in there. Well, this information that's flying all over the place, and all of the technology and all of the messages, truth or not, they're getting in, and that amplifies, and then the kids pick up on it, and then people get miserable and they don't even know why. So this week, though, I have had a really hard time maintaining my own space. Hi, ladies. And not like busting out at the mouth, and conversely, still feeling all of this compassion for what's going on. So the last couple of days, especially with the Senate stuff going on, and Dr. Ford coming out and just saying what she knows. I have this week have spent so much time working with people in how that's triggered their memories, even if they didn't even know stuff was in there. That stuff's coming out. And what has happened for most of us, I think, if there's not an experience of abuse or anything in the past, most of us are pretty empathic, and most of us can feel and have some conceptualization of what that might feel like to be in a position like that. And I'll just be clear, like, I don't believe people just because they say it's happened. I also want some kind of proof. I also want some kind of evidence. And for me, though, it doesn't have to be the black and white evidence. It is, what is someone feeling inside? A lot of the times I end up seeing the abuse they don't want to talk about, and then I'm the one bringing it up. And it's a safe space, so we can then shift some of that perception. But my point is that if you have any experience with that in the past, this week is tough. But I also think it's a learning place for all of us. And I was asking last night, when I was just so rather distraught by what's going on and all of the stories that people were sharing in media and around, not just in my office. Like, I was asking, like, how do we take this and how do we use it to be something that is beneficial to us? And I kept hearing that we have to support each other. And that does not mean that simply because someone says that they've been abused, that we jump right on it and we go after who they're accusing. I think we have to be mindful, and we have to leave space, whether it's somebody stole from them, somebody cheated on them, somebody, whatever the accusation is. We do have to use our brains and not just jump on in an automated response system. So what I'm asking is for each of you to process through what's happening for you. What is coming up? Is there something within you that you haven't spoken about? And it may be completely different than what they're reporting on. It is still has the possibility, it's not always going to, but it still has the possibility to set off a ripple effect in your memory and in all those neural pathways that creates a feeling of vulnerability or being scared. And I think each person is responsible for their own process to look at that, get some help, reach out. Please confide in those who are kind and aren't going to tell you how to do your own process. And this week, with my cranky coming up, I asked myself, I'm like, what is going on with you? And when the Me Too movement first came out, you could think that that's everybody joining and supporting, and I know that was the idea behind it. But I did get a little on my high horse, like, what, we're all just supposed to talk about it, spill it, put it out there in the public, and that's miraculously going to heal us. So I kind of veered away from it. I didn't join it. So when this started coming around again, I asked myself, what is your issue with that? Because that's actually a very great thing. I stand behind the premise that if we talk of trauma, it dissipates and then you can work with it. And I see a lot of trauma in my practice, so I know that works. But I had this little annoying thing going on, and I was being a little judgy, to be quite frank. So I spent some time asking myself, with this one, like, is that connected to the Me Too? Like, what's my issue there? And it was that support, like feeling supported, feeling like you can say something, feeling like you have every right, ability, soul, developed consciousness to be able to speak of what's happening to you. And this does not, I don't care what the timeline is. If it's childhood, teen, going on now, we have to be able to support one another. And I think we support one another by looking at our own, hey, John, Gina, by looking at our own cracks and crevices and, you know, things that are tough in there. So for me, I had, I had also kind of a bumpy weekend, and I'm giving people a little bit of a pass because the energy's flying around there. But I had a few people who actually suggested that I was the reason their relationships weren't working because I was supporting one or both of them or whatever the situation is. But as long as I'm not in that relationship, I promise you, I am not to blame. And I'm okay holding that space, but it did chink at my armor a little bit this week. And I asked, well, how can I support myself? So the go-to was to talk to friends, was to work out, was to take some quiet, to really make sure I had enough water in me, but also to look at what was my problem, my issue with all of this being discussed. Now, I did go through sexual abuse. I went through many years of sexual abuse in my childhood, and thankfully had an amazing husband who heard me and I could process through, and then a great therapist who has helped me understand that, yeah, there's a little bit of a problem there because my family did not back me up. They didn't. And there will never be an excuse that I'm okay with that they didn't show up for me, because when something happened with my daughter, you better believe we knocked down barriers and stuff to deal with it. So the Me Too and the support that needs to be there, if I didn't have it in the past, I didn't necessarily understand. I'm good at being somebody's support, but not receiving the support. So I wonder if there's a space there for you in, are you able to share what's going on inside of you? Because then that dissipates and it allows for some of this cranky stuff to go away. And I think it allows us to become more empathetic to what somebody else is going through. And then we can still make mindful decisions. And from an intelligent place, we can be there to hold people up rather than going in and just knocking down anybody who's seem to have an opposing view. And there's a lot happening right now. We are busting some systems left and right. And people better vote in the midterms or don't even talk to me afterwards. Just don't even talk to me. You better be in there and using your language and your skills and your ability in this country to vote, because that will then support changing of systems. And it has to start at home. It has to start, and I mean home here, and then in your personal home. The idea of being there and listening to what's happening in another and holding a space while also taking care of oneself creates these foundations that then lead to the strong self, lead to the strong community, lead to the strong nation, lead to the strong world, universe out. And supporting does not mean knocking another person down. So be mindful in your words and how you're handling your own emotions. If you're in a completely emotional state, please do not type. Don't be hiding behind that laptop or phone and sharing your expression there. So the process of looking at what is within me, it doesn't mean that, from my experience, it doesn't mean that I don't love the members of my family. It just means that at this point, I can't see something where I will ever be respectful of their choices. And that's okay. You know, that's something that you realize within as you grow older that your parents and your siblings, maybe they just didn't have what you needed, and you create that in the world around you, right? So taking that time to support self. So if anything is happening within you, and I'm so sorry if you experience any of that, and if there was ever a place where you did feel safe in your world, I am so sorry, because I do believe that is a soul right as well. And then some of the humans just fuck it up. Um, and we got to process through that too. But if you will take the time to create the support within yourself and then bring that support out into the world, just give it to one other person. I truly believe that we can change this messed up, out for oneself, old dynamic of voices don't matter. And you'll notice I'm not using genders here. And that is very important to me, because we as a society do not give enough of a space for everyone to have been in a space of experiencing abuse or mistreatment or degradation or any of that. We have to start thinking of ourselves as humans. I don't want this to be a lecture, but man, this has been on every person who's walked in here this week. And I feel like I'm the voice of that sometimes. Your trauma can be healed. It absolutely can. You don't have to be defined by it, but it does need to be heard, and it needs a safe space, and it needs love from you. And your whole self needs to be able to hear you didn't cause anything that happened to you. Anything. So get your facts. If somebody is sharing with you, make sure you have the background. Use your gut. Like, really trust your gut. If you feel that someone or yourself, especially yourself, is in a precarious position, and then how about have some guts? Stand up and speak for that person. They'll still make their own choices. There have been many that have tried to help that decided that they didn't want the help, and they stayed in whatever their circumstances were. We're not saviors. We're there to see the beauty and to see the value in another being, and hope that they can see it too at some point, and stand up for something. Enough of this just running your lips and, well, our lips, because I didn't stand up during the Me Too thing either. So I'm in there with it. Isn't self-awareness fun? So much fun. So this time that's happening in our country right now, and locally here too, we're experiencing it still. I do believe it's to bring the riffraff to the surface. So whether it's whether it's trauma, experiences, the government that you don't like, the company you're working for that it's just time to leave. I really do feel like what's going on and all of this energy is mixing up the silt at the bottom and bringing it up so we could pay attention, because some of us got a little lackadaisical. We can still trust in this amazing universe and country we have while being participant in it. And if you, as much as I'm not a fan of our structure and government right now, bad mouthing is not necessary. That whole expression, be the change you want to see in the world? Let's try that. So this week, ask yourself, is there anything in there that I am hiding from myself? Because if you are hiding anything in there, you are also hiding from your brilliance. you are hiding from the full expression of who you are. And you are gypping the rest of us. Thank you very much. No pressure. But if you truly want to accomplish, feel skilled in this humanness, and to feel blessed as well as your own brilliant self, you got to look at what's hiding in there. If you're no longer in that position right now, if you are, please reach out and let somebody help you. But if you're no longer there, this can be done delicately. It can be done with love and compassion and in incremental doses. You don't have to do the full immersion. But look at what's in there. Maybe write it out. Throw it in a fire and burn it. Use it as a list to work with your therapist and your coach. And then equally look at how you can support yourself and how you can be honest with what isn't working anymore so you can create what is working. Because I think one of the most it's truly devastating to me. I try not to go there too much because, the tears start again. But what's really devastating to me is when someone has lived through some kind of traumatic experience. Sometimes this human experience is that, where you can't put your finger on anything, but it's just the process. And then they don't move through that and they continue to be the abuser to themselves. And that, to me, it's just very sad in my soul. So if you're willing to look at what needs a little bit of light and shine that flashlight on it, then you can then be that light and be brilliant. And I believe you are all brilliant. I'd like you to believe it too. So if this week has been, and well, the weeks and months and everything has been particularly triggering, please reach out, do some deep breathing, go for a walk, get out in nature. It Swiffers you, and do some visualization of how you would like to be in your world, and how we would like this world to work. It does help. So if you're on the fear side of things, get yourself to the hopeful side of things before you do any of that visualization, okay? Because energy travels. If it travels, across multiple continents, your energy can travel too. So participate there. And if we could use a little bit of active listening skills, that would be great. If somebody's talking to you, even if they're talking about the Cheerios they had for breakfast. Don't eat those. They have poison in them. But even if they're talking about something that seems mundane, listen, see somebody, be there. You might be the only validation of their existence they have that day. Be willing to do that. And then hold the love for yourself, for this experience that is human. And for those who are looking at their own bravery and leaving what they need to leave behind, let's celebrate that too. And you're one of them. So I wish you well this week. I hope you have a playful, joyful weekend ahead of you. And if there is a place in your heart, please hold empathy for others. Sympathy is when you feel bad for them, and that doesn't help. Empathy is when you say, I've hurt before. I know what hurting feels like. I may not know what it feels like for you right now, but I know what it feels like to hurt and to feel alone, and I am there for you. It goes a long way. So I adore you. Thank you for listening to my Friday rant. And See you on the flip side.